Welcome back. Two presidential hopefuls dropping out of the race. Former Hewlett-Packard CEO Carly Fiorina and New Jersey Governor Chris Christie called it quits after disappointing results in New Hampshire. Joining us right now is former presidential candidate and Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee. Governor, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Maria. Great to be back.
So the field narrows. Who will you endorse?
Well, right now I don't plan to make an endorsement. A lot of these guys are friends of mine. Frankly, I think it's more the voters to make the decision rather than me try to make it for them. You know, I reserve the right to make an endorsement at some point. But right now it's a vigorous field still, and there's a lot of unsettled play in South Carolina. I think that's wide open.
And let me ask you about the story of the moment, because, you know, the top issue for voters has gone back and forth, economy, jobs, / national security, I guess. And I think we're back to economy and jobs. We've got a major global sell-off this morning. What should people be thinking about? And do you see a plan out there to really move the needle on economic growth?
Maria, I think one of the questions that people are going to be asking, and I think it's driven a lot of the discussion of the race, who will the candidate fight for? Will they fight for a small group of the donor class, the investors, or will they fight for the working people, the folks out there who have been really gut-punched by job sell-offs and the fact that jobs have moved away to Mexico, to China, to other places? And quite frankly, there's only a few candidates that aren't completely funded by the same donor class that funds Democrats and Republicans. One thing I think you see as the reason that both Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump have attracted intense following is because neither one of them are funded by the traditional political donors. And I think a lot of Americans find that refreshing, even exciting.
Mike Huckabee, it's Dagan McDowell. Governor, good to see you. So you know the South, you know the people. Look at South Carolina. Yep. Blue-collar evangelicals, who do they go for, Trump or Cruz?
I think it's a toss-up. This is a place where Trump has to be very careful to not go into vulgarities. But Cruz has to be careful that he's not exposed for the fact that he's essentially funded by the same corporate donors that have funded all of the Democrats and the people that he rails against. And so that's going to be his vulnerability there. I think it's going to be, you know, whether Donald Trump can come in and remind and convince people that he's going to be fighting for those folks who have been hurt by bad trade deals, who have been hurt by job and wage stagflation over the past 40 years. Because for the bottom 90% of the American workers, wages have been stagnant for 40 years, and they're feeling it. And so all the happy talk that President Obama can give or others can give, it simply doesn't translate because they know what they're paying for education, for their homes, for their you know, the bread on their table. Right. And they're frustrated by that.
Governor, the real question that I think voters are going to really want to face is, what are we going to do fiscally? We've got $19 trillion deficit going on right now. We have $55 trillion in unfunded liabilities. That's a huge overhang. Central bankers can't stimulate the economy. Who is the candidate in this race that is going to implement fiscal policy to lead to growth in this country?
Well, that guy dropped out. His name was Huckabee. You know, he had this idea called the fair tax that would have ridded ourselves of all the taxes on productivity. That's what's killing us. When you punish people for working and for investing, punish people for saving, punish people for selling and taking their gains and putting it into something else, which is what our tax system does, you don't stimulate the economy. You really subjugate the economy to subsidies. And so that's where I feel like that there's got to be a different discussion. We can't raise taxes. The only way that we can get out of the mess is grow the economy. And I'm not sure we can grow the economy if we stay on the same economic practices that have essentially stymied the economy, which is what we have done. Yeah. And by the way, Bernie Sanders' answer of raising taxes and giving away stuff, I like a lot of what Bernie says as to why he's upset, but his solutions, oh my gosh, would be destructive to the economy.
Yeah, well, I think he wants to raise $1.6 trillion in new taxes. Governor, good to see you, sir. Thanks very much for joining us.
You bet. Thanks.
Mike Huckabee there.